make sure that we're kind of going through that for the fan question section of the interview. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Cool. All right, I'm going to throw out the formal startup now. 1, 2, 3. Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. And we are going to embark on a wonderful interview with one of my favorite Australian artists right now, Miss Tkay Maidza. She just dropped her fire new EP, Last Year Was Weird, Volume 2. Love every track on it. And now she's here to talk about it. So how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm chilling. I'm actually going to go to the dentist later because my teeth are starting to swell up, but I'm still alive and well. Feeling good.
I've, you know, I don't know how much you know about me, but I mean, I'm a bit of a teeth aficionado. You know, I have a bit of a tooth-based reputation. Some would say I'm concerned about teeth. Honestly, like, are your teeth okay? Is your dental hygiene all right now?
Do you know, it's actually okay, but I think my teeth have grown out, but from what it seems, my gums sometimes cover my teeth, like my wisdom teeth. And I remember going to the dentist and the lady was like, we should just take all of them out. We'll put you under anesthetic and be totally fine. $2,000, you got it. Oh, good. I'll tell your mom. And I was like, wait, I didn't even agree to this. Like, when are we getting this done kind of thing? And my mom went home and she's like, the dentist called and said we should do it next week. And I was like, capitalism, I hate it. And I just didn't go. And now I'm paying for it right now.
So that's you're undergoing wisdom teeth removal. That's the procedure today?
No, I'm just going to get antibiotics so it doesn't swell up even more. I think I'm going to stay under the whole, I'm not paying for capitalism.
Got it. Tooth-based capitalism. I got it.
Exactly.
I got it. I know that you guys have universal healthcare over there and stuff. It doesn't cover dental. No dental coverage.
I don't think it does. Yeah. I think, from what it seems, dental hygiene isn't as necessary as other, Medicare.
according to the government, I guess.
Yeah. Apparently.
You could go to work toothless. Teeth aren't necessary, I guess. Yeah. As long as you're being kept alive enough to go to your job, do this and do that. It doesn't matter how many teeth are in your mouth, I guess.
Yeah. That's why I'm not going. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna pray all your teeth stay in your mouth and everything's okay. I'm gonna pray on it.
When my album comes out, I just have no teeth.
I mean, there's a song title in that. There is an album title in that. There is a whole round of promo in that's potentially there. So be open to it, explore it. Be open to it. But not to get ahead of ourselves and talk about future teeth-based releases. You just dropped this new EP. For you, what has been the reception so far? I mean, are you really happy with the reception? Are you psyched? How has it been compared with previous releases? The last year was weird, and your self-titled debut.
It's been unreal. I feel like the EP series was meant to reintroduce myself and to give people a better understanding of who I am. And I feel like this EP has really clicked with people, and especially those who know who I am, but don't really care enough to listen, if that makes sense. So I feel like it's starting to resonate with how I see myself and how people think I should, with the way people think I should be kind of presenting myself. So it's just all aligning, and everyone's been really supportive, honestly. It's been really great, and it's really exciting because I feel like everything we're going to do after makes even more sense, kind of thing. So it's it's been really assuring.
You're talking about almost reintroducing yourself. Is there pressure to do this because you feel like you've changed since the last time people have been conscious of you? I mean, you've had big tracks before, hit internationally or especially in Australia. Do you feel like you need to reintroduce because maybe people previously were just listening to those tracks or those big features you've done passively and weren't really kind of diving into you, or you've done something new and you're kind of a different artist and taking a different approach now and you need to reintroduce everyone to that?
Yeah, I think I'm taking a different approach, and I think for the most sense, like you said, a lot of people were listening to the big songs that I was featuring it on, and they're probably like, oh, I listened to a single from TK, but I wouldn't listen to an album. And part of that is my fault. It's not really a fault, but I was more focused on making singles and making big songs to begin with. And then when my album came out, I was kind of like, wait, I like dance music, but I don't think this is the full scope of who I am. And I think I can do more and say more. And I think at that point, that was when a lot of like R&B and alternative soul music and like dance music was starting to really pop up kind of thing. So I was kind of like, oh, wait, this seems to resonate with me more because it's more soulful and it's not always about like how loud you can be all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like it's, there's more substance to it. And I just wanted to just delve into that world more and find, and I thought in that way I would understand myself more as well, because I came into this when I was 17 and then my album came out when I was 20 and then now I'm 23. So I'm just like, okay, cool. Like you're obviously going to change in that space of time. Like that's nearly a decade. So it's just been an evolution and then trying to get everyone else to catch up to where my mind's at, because I can't be like the brontosaurus, you know, do it right girl forever. Like it's just not realistic for me to be like that for the career, like the course of my career. So yeah.
Yeah, Brontosaurus dropped almost 7 years ago at this point. You've been operating in the game at a somewhat professional level for the length of like 2 or 3 clout rappers relevancy cycles. And, you know, over the course of that time, you know, considering how, you know, early into your teenage years, you sort of entered into the music industry at such a prominent level, at least, you know, in your own country. You know, what do you feel like you've learned over the course of that? I mean, often when people enter into the scene that young, they're either forgotten or taken advantage of, or sort of seen as like, you know, a one-hit wonder or just like a passing phase. But you've like really stretched it out into something a lot more significant. I mean, you know, does that come from like adapting quickly, learning the ropes, or knowing something somebody else doesn't?
Yeah, I think early in my career, it was more so just trying to almost carpe diem any opportunity that I was given. And that probably, for me, I was like, oh, I'm just trying to write top lines for literally anything that's happening. And, you know, as dance music moves, the genres are moving, and then now it's gone into hip hop. I feel like it was easier for me to hop around without getting stuck, if anything, because for the most part, they weren't my songs all the time. They were other people's songs. So I think that helped me remain relevant in some ways, because if I wasn't putting out a song for like a year and a half, I was probably going to feature on something, and that would kind of give me the time to figure out what I was going to do next. So it was a bit of adapting a lot. Like I think I had to do that, but I think the way I listen to music as well is almost like a playlist. Like it doesn't, like I just like everything. So I think that's my approach to how I write music. In terms of what I've learned, it's always good to try things and experiment. I think I wouldn't change that about early in my career. I think the reason why I am who I am is because I was happy to just try everything, and that's kind of just become my identity, to be like this person who's just like curating vibes and just trying to present new ideas and like reinterpret things for, you know, the audience kind of thing. But at the same time, the thing I've probably learned is if something doesn't feel right, just don't do it, because there were a couple of songs where I just weren't happy with, and then I was just taken on this ride that I didn't really want to be on. So it's like, know when enough is enough. And if you just really don't want to be a part of something, don't do it, even if everyone tells you it's going to be the best thing ever for you, you know? Yeah.
You know, you were talking about this EP series earlier as almost like an exploration of yourself, and you're sort of delivering different sides of you or something. I mean, the sound of this in comparison with your, you know, first last year was Weird EP isn't like super radically different, but there are sounds on the EP that you didn't repeat on this one. I mean, there's that super good reggae cut like on the opening track of that EP, and you didn't necessarily like, you know, repeat that sound once again over here. I mean, what sides of your persona would you say that you're delivering here on volume 2 that you didn't give us before?
I feel like the first EP was great for like lyrics, but I feel like it was lacking energy. So when I was picking, when I was focusing on what tracks I wanted to put on the track list, it was more so just whether it gives me that spark or like that excitement, and whether I will enjoy playing it live. Like, I think when I played shows when I was younger, it's just like so much energy. So I felt like the challenge for this EP was finding that happy medium of the smooth, like low-key songs, but also still having that ability to have a lot of energy in a live setting. So I feel like 24K and, you know, Shook and Awake is like far left to the high energy side, but like I feel like the first few tracks are like good balances of like what I was trying to get with the whole high energy, but still you can like chill out to it if anything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, how far right now, because I mean, you know, we can't totally predict the future, but in your own head artistically, like how far do you see this series going? You know, is there like a volume 3, 4, 5 where you're giving us elements of your personality that you haven't sort of explored quite yet?
There's a third one coming, so that one's kind of like 70% done. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of the tracks done when we were wrapping up number 2 in December. If anything, this one feels like a progression of this one. It has like the energy, and even still then there's still like a lot of rhythms and just like melodies that I don't think I've explored in this one. So if anything, it's just like another, it's another, I don't know if it's like another step up, but it's just like you're going into another world, and it kind of, you know, when we have all 3 of them, you'll see the whole evolution, and the idea is for them to sit together. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Okay. I mean, further beyond that, is there, you know, is there like a goth TK that we're going to see pop up on an EP? Is there a psychedelic TK that we're going to see popping up on an EP? Like, how deep does the rabbit hole go in terms of like the genres that you're willing to explore? Because everything seems like, you know, pretty versatile at this point. And, you know, while I do kind of point that at you in a humorous way, I mean, I don't know. I feel like kind of the sky's the limit for you in terms of like what you might try next. I don't know.
It's more, there's a lot more trap, if anything, but I have some like indie rock songs that I've been wanting to put on. Yeah, I really love them, but everyone's always like, why? I'm like, just trust me.
Just try it.
Yeah, and there's also like other reggae songs. The original, so Last Year Was Weird, the whole EP series was based on a song called Last Year Was Weird. Yeah. And that song is a reggae song as well. So there's still like a couple other reggae demos, but I think Dan and I specifically, we make so much music that it just comes down to what just makes the most sense in the end as a track list and as a story kind of thing. But, you know, I feel like if it doesn't come out now, it might make sense later. Sunflowers was meant to be on the first EP, but we just didn't think it made sense. So that's why, oh no, not Sunflowers, My Flowers. It was called Sunflowers.
Title change.
Yeah, exactly. So there's always a place for everything. So you might hear an indie song on the album.
You know, tell me a little bit about, or tell us a little bit about Dan Farber, the producer who you've been working with, because he almost messages me and comments to me more than you do. He's like, dude, thank you for loving the music. It's awesome that you love it. And, and I know that he and I, because I'm following him on Twitter, I know that maybe the last time I was in Australia or the time before that, I might have crossed over with him for a second. Like, how exactly did you guys meet? And since you do explore so many different sounds and styles, like, what is the process of sort of like, you know, coming together with songs, you know, in collaboration with Dan?
So Dan and I met probably 6 years ago. We were paired together through publishing, and we had a session where we made a trap song that was just like so hectic. And I think in that time I was like, I don't understand what this is meant to be. But I remember Dan just having so much energy, like the energy that you see when he's like typing things to you kind of things, just like he's always going off. And that kind of stuck with me. When I was making my TK album, we made a song for the album. It was called Castle in the Sky. But in that session, he was kind of just asking me like, how do you feel about your album? And are you happy with everything? And I wasn't really that happy. So he kind of just like took that role of being like a therapeutic friend. And we just had a lot of sessions where we didn't actually write any music. We just spoke, hung out, played songs that we liked and thought, and that we were inspired by kind of thing, just to catch a vibe and get to know each other. And it was probably like 6 months of us just doing that and just talking and like just going back and forth every once in a while. And then there was one day where I was like really breaking down, and then I said Last Year Was So Weird, and he was like, oh, let's make a song called Last Year Was Weird. And that was kind of the beginning. And when we were speaking through the teams and everything, he was kind of like, I'm happy to help her develop. I think she needs someone that's just there for her, because like prior to that, I was just hopping around, just going through so many sessions, meeting so many new people. And I think that was what was like the downfall for me, if anything. Like I just didn't feel like I was close to anyone, and I didn't know if I had the right people looking out for me. It just felt like I was trying to impress everyone I was working with as opposed to building with someone. We just like became close, started writing a lot of songs for the first EP. And before we wrote the EPs, I made some documents and playlists of just like what Last Year Was Weird looks like, what it sounds like, and the references. So it was like went from like Neo to like Busta Rhymes to Missy to Janet Jackson to, like Vince Staples to just like a wide array of just like stuff that I like, and the borders of what I envision like my music soundscape to be, kind of thing. We just did that for a while. I think for the most part, if anything, a lot of it was just planning and just like visualizing it in your head. And then when I kind of had it like embedded in my mind, if he sent me beats or if I was looking for beats online or just like ideas, like I had this clear picture of what I wanted to do. And he also did as well, because I was sending it to him, and we just had that back and forth and that trust kind of thing. And so this EP, if anything, was like even more fun because there were sessions where he could lead it, and I trusted him to be like, you should do this flow, you should like do this. This is the beat we're working on today. And there's other sessions where I'm like, all right, we're making a grime song like Grasshopper or something. He's just like, okay, cool, we're gonna do this today. So it was just like, it was a long process. I feel like that's the best way to go about it. And yeah, that's kind of like the evolution of me and Dan, if anything.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds almost like in a way, and unintentionally, you were just like mood boarding the whole thing before you'd even like started it. And by that point, he just sort of like knew your taste, and then it was just like kind of like this connection, this artistic connection had been fostered at that point. And, unfortunately, that's not the way a lot of people, go about the writing process. You also talk. Yeah. I mean, you talk about that point where previously, not to sort of like hone in on this too much or make a sad moment or anything, but it's kind of interesting because I sort of wonder how common of a thing this is, but you talk about this space and time before you guys were working together where you felt like, and it sounded like in a way you were almost isolated and you didn't really like have someone who artistically you could kind of trust or sort of like really bounce ideas off of and sort of like understand where you're coming from. Like, is that a place you feel like a lot of artists sort of end up, especially if they're solo acts and they're not sure like exactly what to do next in their career?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very common for like, say if you're thinking, oh, I wonder what happened to this artist. It's usually they've literally probably just lost their team and feel really disconnected with the people around them. So they just don't know what to do because it's just like nothing feels worth doing because you don't know why you're doing it and who you're doing it for, kind of thing. And I think I've learned that I need to feel like I have a solid team around me because I want to work for my team and for everyone to go up. And if I feel like I'm doing it for myself, then for some reason it doesn't feel as rewarding for some reason. Like I feel like I want to bring people up along with me so it doesn't feel like me, I'm doing it for me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Even though it is me.
We'll get into that in a second. Before that though, I want to I want to take a second to sort of dive into your musical background a little bit, because I know that previously in your life you've studied architecture. There was also a time where your life kind of revolved around tennis, and then you're evolving to this place where music becomes, your full-time focus and thing. Yeah. Like being so young and in a position where seemingly like your life paths, some pretty interesting life paths are being like laid out in front of you. Like how exactly does music end up coming into frame and just dominating and obliterating everything else? And it's like, no, we're doing this instead.
Yeah, I think with tennis, I had a really big passion for it, but it's so technical and you have like teams and when you're playing sports against other people, you're competing, and then you have like other parents kind of like having their hands in it. And it just felt like, I felt very like claustrophobic because I didn't think you don't really determine your future with sport because you're playing against someone. And I think music is such like what you put in is what you get. And like someone's parent can't like tamper with that kind of thing. So I think
tennis parents are a bitch. It's true.
Oh my God, like they're the worst. Yeah, I was just sick of going to training and having like families trying to get into my business and be like, oh, she can't be top of the team. She didn't train that much this week. And it's like, who cares kind of thing. Like that was the constant drama. So I was at that point when I was 16 where I knew I didn't want to play tennis anymore. So, and that was when I started like going on MySpace, LimeWire. I was just exploring and actually finding music that really excited me. Like I remember having Santi Gold on my profile and I thought I was the coolest kid ever because everyone else just had like Katy Perry or something. So that was what was exciting me at the time. And my dad had a lot of studio gear in the house. He's been in bands growing up and a lot of my extended family is very musical. So it just felt like something I could do without having my parents or like anyone's parents kind of monitoring and like judging it. Like I could just write a song, upload it on YouTube and, you know, go to school and come back and just kind of do that. Like, and that was enjoyable for me because no one else could kind of play with that. And it was my own little world that I was building. So I wanted to pursue music. Like I actually went and tried out for a talent show, X Factor, but I didn't get in, thank God. Because it just wouldn't have been my path. Like I'm not a technically good singer or anything. I think I'm just meant to be a creative first and foremost. What did I do? I started going to a community studio probably 2 hours away from my house. And I would just attend every Monday, watch kids record and like rap and like, you know, produce just to like be around music and just soak it in and understand what it's like to be in the industry. They had a lot of seminars and stuff with like local managers and other industry people just talking about like, when should you get a manager? How do you know you're like succeeding? And like when, you know, just all those kind of questions that I'm sure that everyone is always wondering when they want to become a musician. I
think there might be, there are most likely some people in my audience on, you know, the state side of things who are like a little like sort of curious as to how this is happening. And something I haven't discussed in videos before about Australia because, you know, because of my visits there. But what some people might not know is the government's like pretty invested in the music scene. And like, you know, there seem to be programs where like you're talking about where, you know, there's like at least some attention being paid to like what the local talent is and like, you know, regulation in terms of like playing local artists on like the radio stations there as opposed to just like letting American artists play all the time. And, you know, like, can you talk about sort of this space, you know, the studio space that, because over here in America, we don't really like have these places where people are like kind of going to communally just be like, hey, we're going to like learn about music together and stuff, unless you're talking about like a very expensive music school or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I guess the studio that I did go to was kind of, well, it is still there actually. It's in an area it's not in a great area. And I guess there's like a lot of kids that do get in trouble for like just being in the wrong place at the wrong time or just like, so they do have those community centers where they're like, okay, they know that these kids can't afford to go to classes or like, you know, learn music or, you know, just anything. So this is probably a better alternative than possibly having them in jail or something, or just, you know, getting caught up kind of thing. I think that's the focus, especially that is a pretty good focus. They do focus on the youth here. They just want to like present like a good example of like, you don't have to become what your circumstances, like there's more to it kind of thing. So there's that. And then also, I think that apart from like recently with COVID and stuff, I don't think the government wants to give as much money to creatives and like
probably
stuff right now. But I think we do have like a pretty good infrastructure where we do get grants and like extra support where we do need, like I'm pretty sure like early in my career, whenever I had to go to Europe or America, we could apply for grants and that really helped me. So there is the support. I think it just depends where you are in your career and all that stuff. There is a good support actually, because when you, like you said, when you do go to America and stuff, there is those questions of like, where do I find this information and how do I like read about all these things? There is a website called Sonic Bids though that I used to read quite a lot, and that's a US site, and they do answer those questions quite a lot. But yeah, we are really lucky, actually. Now that you say that.
No, I mean, well, I'm just saying by comparison over here, like,
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to the youth, like America's attitude is fuck them, and America's attitude is fuck them kids, and if you're poor, it's your fault that you're poor, and and then it's a problem you have to fix, and then beyond that, on the artistic side, you know, there's not like a, you know, not to say that you guys have exactly this, but there's not like a Ministry of the Arts or anything like that. You know, over in Canada, they do similar things where they give grants for albums and that sort of thing. But it's just not so much a thing over here, you know. And I mean, Lord, I mean, because of budget cuts in schools, I mean, for a lot of inner city schools that are poorer, you know, music gets cut like first, you know, I mean, because that seems like less of a necessity. And you know, and the problems get worse from there. But you know, not to distract from all that, but it sounds like that was really an important sort of time and you know, sort of like community and surroundings for you to be involved in that kind of inspired and sparked a lot of what you ended up doing later.
Yeah, there was an interesting thing that happened when I was out there, actually. I had just released Brontosaurus, and Prince William and Princess Kate, they came, and I actually played Brontosaurus for them on national TV.
Oh my God.
Random. But yeah, like, people do go over there quite a lot, and it is such an important thing we have in Adelaide or in Australia, that the government and the people do really care about the youth here. If anything, I don't think a lot of people know about it, you know? So yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's you know, just interesting to sort of hear that, because whenever I go down there, I'm just like in love with the music scene and how chill everybody seems to be there, and just like how much, and look, I mean, all local scenes have their problems, but I mean, it's like there seems to be like a lot more cohesion than there is in the scene over here. I mean, just, you know, one more thing over here that I'm not very happy about recently is that because of COVID, we're essentially like letting all of these amazing classic, like historical venues just die on the vine because like, you know, they can't open their doors, you know what I mean? Or else they'd be risking their patrons' health and everything. So, and there's been essentially like no bailout for them or anything. I mean, I don't know if the approach over there has been much different, but
that's happening here as well, to be honest.
I mean, nobody's figuring it out perfectly, but over here there's like virtually no solution to it whatsoever. And the best some booking agents have been able to do is like, we're going to kind of finagle some socially distant outdoor concerts, and maybe things will be okay that way. But I mean, again, like lots of super big groundbreaking venues that like tons of famous artists have played at just completely just disintegrating essentially financially because like they can't do anything. And it's just tragic. To take it back to the Australian music scene really quickly, the last couple of times I was out there, the hip hop scene was there. I mean, and you were certainly a thing as well, but you know, it wasn't the biggest sort of presence on the music scene at large. I mean, in a way, it seemed like, you know, it was, some of the artists who were at least some of the more notable ones were at least a little obscure in a way. And I mean, has the scene kind of grown in profile since, you know, in the past 4 or 5 years, like even since your debut album a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. There's so many different like just like groups. There's like the drill scene, which is so big.
Drill's big out there too?
Yeah, drill is so big. There's a group called 1-4. There's a couple other guys like HP Boys, and there's so many, and they're mainly like islanders. So it's like it's just like a completely different group. And there is also like the trap side and the like African diaspora, which is probably what I fit into most. It's like migrants from Africa kind of thing, and most of us do like alternative, like more jazz, like dancey kind of stuff. I think it's really exciting right now, but at the same time, there's still like not enough people for it to seem like to make that big of a splash. Like I think it's still like there's certain people like Kid Leroy, Sampa, Monty Crooks, and there's 1-4 doing their thing for the drill side at the moment kind of thing. And then there's also like people who are really big here, like Illy, Hilltop Hoods. And yeah, I think it's still at that point where there's singular people just doing the thing kind of thing. But it's growing, and I'm really excited because it doesn't feel like I'm the odd one out. There's people similar to me that I can speak to and reach out to, and, you know, we can all bring each other up.
And, as you get more international attention, which I mean, you're especially getting with this new EP over here, do you feel like, your heart and your presence and, just where you are geographically, will that continue to be Australia? I mean, I understand you're based out of Adelaide right now, which can be pretty chill. I mean, it's probably a pretty valuable place to be if you ever want to like unplug, from all of it.
Yeah, I wanted to move to LA this year, so I was meant to move. I would have been in LA right now, basically. It's just so convenient there, and for me, like, I'm such like if I'm there, I'm a studio rat, so it just makes the most sense for me to be there instead of being here. Obviously, it's safer to be in Adelaide right now, but the goal is to relocate to LA the sooner I can get onto a plane, really.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, it's understandable. I know lots of Australian artists who have sort of made the relocation. I mean, it's interesting. There's so many artists that people associate with the country that aren't even like there currently. I mean, it's sort of like another conversation anyway. But also talking about your connections also to Zimbabwe, because you also talked about immigrating over to Australia when you were very young. I mean, is that sort of in the speaking of your material in the future and the influences that you've taken over the years from artists like Santi Gold, and it seems like some of your stuff you fucked pretty heavy with MIA as well. I mean, are those roots of your home country something that you'd like to sort of incorporate more into your future tracks, on like the next EP or something, or on another album as you continue to introduce yourself to like newer audiences?
Yeah, I mean, Big Things, if anything, that was more the most Zimbabwean that I've ever been, because reggae is so like prominent in Zimbabwe. If anything, I'm not entirely sure if I would go in another direction that is more like African, if anything. But I think what resonates within me that shows that I'm African is just like the fast tempos and the rhythm, and that's such like a big thing, especially like with Africans, if anything. So it's just like that need for energy and like the brightness as well. Like I feel like Zimbabwean music is very bright. I think if anything, I'll probably try more reggae songs, but I don't know if I would branch off into any like more subgenres, because it goes very like bandy and it's very like acoustic, if anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you one last question before I get into the fan questions over here, which, to remind you guys, you can throw questions for TK into the chat and we will throw them at her. If they're good. But I wanted to ask you about sort of a recent drama and song release and to-do. I mean, there's that new big Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion song Whap that just came out, and I love the track. I think it's really, I think it's entertaining. I don't think there's, I don't think we need to, say it's the greatest song in the world. It's entertaining. It's an entertaining song. But, around the track, though, there's been like this heated and ongoing debate that it, from my view, just sort of like orients without people even realizing it when they're talking about how vulgar the song is and this, that, and the other thing. But it seems in a way it's just kind of a revolving around women's sexual agency in their own music. And for me, like what's kind of refreshing about WAP is that it's not that you're hearing about wet ass pussy, but you're hearing about the owner of the wet ass pussy's perspective and what they would like to do with it and what the wet ass pussy likes and so on and so forth. But, but from your perspective, like why should or why does a song about wet ass pussy create such a stir?
I feel like people are still holding on to this like idea of what females should be like. And I feel like that's been broken for like the last couple of years. If anything, within the circles that I exist in, if you have the power to like use your sexuality and just like celebrate yourself, you should kind of do that. Like, I don't understand why people still hold on to this like idea that, oh, she's being a slut. Oh, she's like, you can't talk like that because that's not ladylike. Because I feel like the same type of people are the ones that do sexualize women, and they do view women as like objects at the same time. Wait, what was the question again?
Well, I guess the question is, well, I think you were answering it, but the question was like, why should a song about wet ass pussy why should a song about that create so much drama?
I feel like people just want to find drama at the same time, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, if there's like, if you flip the gender role and a guy was saying all these things, like if you listen to Lil Uzi or etc. Playboy Cardi, like no one really cares about what they say. They're like, oh, it's lit. So I feel like it's just that idea of what women are supposed to be like. Someone is always going to be mad, and they're going to try and like put you back into the box because they're like, oh, you shouldn't be proud of like those things, but at the same time send me a nude. Do you know what I mean?
It's sort of like the separation of the difference between being sexualized versus being sexual, versus just being sexual. But it's just really odd, the reception that it's gotten, because sure, there are people who don't like the track, and you don't have to like the song just musically, but it's been odd to see like politicians and political commentators talking about it. Is like, why is this a discussion for you? Like, what the fuck does it matter
like
about Cardi B talking about her pussy?
Exactly. It's like, bro, there's people dying. Focus on that. You know what I mean?
That's true. I mean, if you're in the political sphere, you would think you have like bigger things to focus on.
Exactly.
All right, let me let me start throwing you some questions at here that fans have been writing in. Carly Shay Jepson, this is in reference to a previous collaboration or crossover that you've done that, from a scene that has been getting pretty interesting as of late with the whole hyper pop thing popping off. But, you've worked with Danny L. Harl in the past. Would there be interest on your end in working with Danny, or, just sort of like crossing over into the PC music or sort of hyper pop sound, at this point? Or, are you kind of doing your own thing or going a different way?
I feel like I'd be down to work with Sophie or something. And if anything, if it is like in that PC world, it's probably like a trap beat, kind of like how Vince hopped on the Flume and Sophie beat, or like that kind of thing. Maybe not in the melodic singing world. I think that's just like too far gone for me now, kind of thing. Like, I just need to focus it in a bit too, like a lot more kind of thing, and be realistic with what I want to do. And then also like just be thoughtful for people. So like, it's fun to jump around, but at the same time, you can't freak people out too much. Even if it's for myself, like, you still just have to be thoughtful with how you present yourself.
Okay. Because there's so many people who watch me who are a huge fan, there are people who are, I'm getting multiple questions, people just asking, how did the JPEG Mafia crossover happen? How did you find out about JPEG Mafia? Like, what exactly, was the whole process like getting his verse on a track? Yeah,
so I tend to like look around for new music. So I was already a fan of his, and that would have been obviously just before he hopped on the Flume tracks and everything. We have mutual friends, and I was in LA for that most part around when the collab came through. And we actually messaged his manager, and we said, hey, like, we have this song. We would love JPEG to hop on it. TK's played it live a couple of times. It's lit. Look at it. Look at this video, kind of thing. And he literally sent the verse within like 3 days of us asking for him to hop on it. Like, he's really quick and just super professional in that sense. And it was a really quick turnover, if anything. I met him when we shot the video, and he was just like so chill, in his own world, enjoying himself, kind of thing. But in terms of the collaboration, it was just like pretty like, hey, would you like to hop on this song? He was actually like first choice as well. And he was like, yeah, totally down. And it was like, oh, cool, this has worked out well. And then when it came out, it was like, oh, this is amazing.
This person, Evil Witch, is asking in all caps, they want to know, what happened to the song with Charlie XCX? Is there a Charlie XCX song that we don't know about?
Yeah, so I wrote a verse to Unlock It, which I think on the original it's her and Jay Park. And the verse that I wrote was actually just for a live show. So she invited me to play in Sydney with Banoffee. And Banoffee wrote a verse as well. And that was kind of it was just for the live show, to be honest. I didn't have a copy of the track. They mixed it in, and they were like, cool, see you on the day. And we rehearsed it, and I was like, cool, that was fun, but like never heard anything about the song after. It doesn't make sense for her to go back and drop, I personally know that she has like lots of stuff that hasn't seen the light of day. So she's just super picky about what she puts out, and that just is what it is. Yeah, it just makes sense.
Because I also have a lot of fans in the audience of this group as well. This person's asking if you're excited for the upcoming King Gizzard single this Thursday. You know, are you into a lot of the bands from the psych scene? You know, from your way.
I think they're really tight. I mean, I personally only really listen to Tame Impala. But whenever I hear King Gizzard's tracks, I'm just like, whoa, this is insane. I need to get into that stuff more, if anything.
Some people are asking generally, like, just about some of your major influences, like when you were, in your early teens and even a little bit younger, like what are some of those first albums, artists, and CDs that are like kind of making a big impression on you that, have kind of stuck with you to this point, stuff that in your early life, hasn't aged terribly, records and artists that you still hold on to this day?
I'll definitely say The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I've been listening to Blue Velvet by Janet Jackson a lot. That was kind of like, that has survived throughout my life. Outkast, a lot of their albums, they're really prominent. Missy Elliott, Super Duper Fly. Contemporary probably be like The Pink Print by Nicki Minaj. Like that was, or Pink Friday and The Pink Print. Like a lot, her first few albums, they were just like insane to me. And it was also like so special because I was following her when she was dropping her mixtape. So it's just, that was the first time that I felt like I was there at the beginning of an artist's like,
you were literally
trajectory.
there at the beginning.
Yeah, I was there. So I was there for mixtape Nicki, saw it blow up, and I was like, this is amazing. Kendrick, Section 80, that's a really great one. What was another? Cruel Summer, good music. Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, that's a really timeless album for me. Because of the Internet, Childish Gambino, that's a really special one for me. Santi Gold, her debut album. I forgot what it's called, the one with the silver. I was really listening to a lot of Kala as well, like a lot of MIA early stuff as well. That would have been more prominent in my early stuff though, but I don't think you can really hear a lot of MIA in my stuff anymore. I haven't really been listening to it as much.
It's definitely not as prominent in your new stuff, but it's so funny. Like I feel like the number of artists, even though on your debut album that was like a super apparent influence, it's still like super rare to hear somebody who takes off of her work or takes notes from her work to begin with. What I mean? I feel like in a really curious way, it's like there's this amazing moment in music that people just aren't really kind of like repeating really fantastic ideas from, and at least you were like, I think in a way, I think you were honestly kind of perceptive to be borrowing from that, because I frankly, in a world that musically and aesthetically seems to be getting more synthetic, more dance music oriented, and more international, like, why would you not be looking to the breadcrumb trail that this artist left out there? Right. And, most people are just like, huh, what? Like, what? Kala, what? I don't know what the fuck that is. It's like,
what is that?
I maybe know the Paper Plane song, possibly, it's
like, to the albums. For me, the thing that I loved about MIA was just the fact that she's not a technical singer, and I wasn't either. And I just loved the like sense of freedom and experimentation, and just you could tell what she was saying was like a stream of consciousness. She wasn't like double checking anything. Like you can just hear that. It's kind of like what she feels goes, and it's a vibe. And that's probably what inspired me the most, especially like early on. It was just like, it hyped me up to be that kind of like daring, carefree kind of person earlier on.
Well, that's also simultaneously kind of the punk element of what she was doing as well. I mean, even in her Maya record where she was like, I think that one track off has like the Suicide sample, which is like a super fucking obscure synth punk pull to be, doing it, unless you're like familiar with that time or that scene. But, there was like a super fucking punk element to a lot of what she was doing in terms of like the attitude and the delivery and just, just the not giving a shit about what anybody thinks, sort of mindset of it, which was, also what made it so amazing for tracks like Paper Planes to blow up as big as they did. And I think it was also in a way kind of punk as fuck for her to immediately after that just be like, you know what, I'm gonna have a kid. And instead of just like, deciding to become like this music industry product, like for the next 10 years of my life, I'm just like going to kind of just dip out and just do my own thing and be a mom or whatever.
Yeah. She's like basically like a true artist. She's kind of just like running her own to her own beat, kind of like following her own drum kind of thing, which is like really inspiring because she's just literally doing it for the sense of like expressing herself, and then if she doesn't feel like saying anything, she's gonna dip and find something else to do, and she'll come back to it when she's ready. It's not like she's not running a race, if anything, or what it seems.
This guy Ewan390 wants to. Is there going to be vinyl for the new EP? I assume there is. I mean, it's on 4AD. There's got to be something for it.
Yeah, we're looking into it. There's definitely going to be a deluxe when we have all three.
Cool.
I'm just trying to push for the number 2 though, because they were kind of like, oh, maybe not. And I'm like, can you see all the comments that are asking for it? We should just do it, kind of thing. So I think it's definitely going to happen. I'm just not sure exactly when. Still pushing for it.
4AD's been retweeting my review and everything. Tell them they're not allowed to. They're not allowed to retweet anything that I say about you from here forward until we get a vinyl for it. Okay.
Get a vinyl. There's probably someone watching. So
yeah, for someone from 4AD is probably watching. Get a vinyl out. I mean, all my fans are vinyl nerds anyway, so it just kind of makes sense. I did like a speaking gig over at Rough Trade one time in New York. They have a venue out there, and like immediately the manager came up to me after the show and said, "Your fans really like buying records." And it's like, yeah, so that's they just listen to records all day. That's all that they do. And I was like, could I get a record for free? And they were like, no, sorry, no. So whatever. But shout out to Rough Trade though. Shout the fuck out to Rough Trade.
I think my only headline I played in New York was at Rough Trade. So
okay.
Yeah, it's dope.
It's a great venue, and it's rare that you have like such a huge vinyl catalog as well in the same place. Yeah. This person I think is looking for some artistic inspiration over here. At the points of your career where maybe you've thrown out songs and they didn't necessarily hit or anything, what would you say pushed you or continued to push you forward to keep making music and keep recording and keep advancing and evolving when maybe like as many ears weren't there or all the financial incentives weren't there necessarily, Yeah.
For me, I think when I think about music in my life and like what else I would be doing, like I don't think I would be doing anything else. So if there's any time that I have doubt or I'm confused about the pathway, it's just about like going back to the thoughts of like, what's the goal? Where do you want to be? And how do you get there? And for me, like when I do ask myself those questions, it goes back to, write a song, or like, it's like having that mood board of what does the ultimate you sound like? What does the ultimate you like look like? And if you want to be rich, or if you want to live in like a nice small house in the woods with like no one bothering you, what is the reason why you got there, kind of thing. So it's like having just like, whenever you're confused, just write down like 10 things of like that you'd like, and then maybe write how you're going to get there, even if you don't know, kind of thing. I think the more you do it, the more the picture becomes clearer, kind of thing, and eventually you'd be like, oh, I know exactly how I'm going to get there. And even if you don't have it, even if you're not thinking about it, somehow your subconscious is somehow still trying to figure out how to get that thing, if you know what I mean. Like, it's like, it's a weird thing. It's the power of manifesting, if anything.
I was just going to say, I think Zoomers would call that manifestation. They would call that manifesting.
Yeah. If whenever I'm like just not inspired or not sure what I'm meant to do, I just kind of look back to what did I say I was supposed to do a week ago when I wrote something down in my book. Like, I just try to go back to that and remember those feelings that I had when I was feeling hopeful, and that kind of can bring a spark. If anything, just go for a walk, go to the gym, buy popcorn, have chocolate, start the day tomorrow. And do you know what I mean? Like, don't stress yourself out at the same time.
No, that's perfect advice. The last question I want to ask you is for me before we head out. You've been doing this for quite a while. I mean, if we're just taking into account the time since Brontosaurus, almost a decade. Be a few years till it's a decade. Yeah. But you're still relatively young. You're in your early 20s. I mean, do you feel at this point that you have a super clear sense of who you are as an artist, what you want to be, where you want to be, or do you simultaneously, or do you rather feel like you're just kind of getting started at this point, especially with like your profile growing on the more international side of things?
I think I have a better sense of where I want to be. I have a great sense of what I definitely don't want to do. That's like, I feel like when you definitely don't want to do, that's like a really great start. So I'm aware of that. I feel like I'm still starting out. And I'm excited to build up. Like, I don't know where I'll be in 5 years. I think what I'm just trying to focus on is just like being really intentional with the music and the vision, and kind of just like taking every day, week, month as it goes. Cause it's just like, it's all building up. And that's kind of what I learned doing this EP was like, you know, we had Shook finished in September and we planned the video probably for like 4 months. And we didn't settle until we found the right junkyard and we found the right director. So it was just kind of like, okay, cool, just trust it's going to happen kind of thing. So I think
it's a good video in the right junkyard and the right director. Junkyard. The right junkyard is fucking important.
Yeah, it was actually probably like a 3-hour drive out of LA, but the guy who owned the junkyard gave it to us for like $200 US a day.
Wow.
Like, that is so cheap.
I mean, I've never rented out a junkyard for a music video. I don't, but I don't know.
I think if you think like movies and stuff, if anything, it'll be at least like 2,000 or like 1K if you're closer to LA kind of thing. Because if everyone knows how much everything costs in LA, but if you're just far out minding your own business, you're just like doing your own thing. So he was just nice enough to have us there kind of thing. But yeah, well, like
it was a unique idea to begin with. And, if there were more junkyard music videos, the price would probably be higher. There'd be a higher demand.
Yeah. I feel like someone might have told him to raise the price after we left, but not during. But yeah, I think the focus now is just to like focus on the music, take every week or day as it comes. And if it's all going to plan, like I feel like I'll be able to get that house in the woods where I can like disappear and not see anyone.
Well, I'm praying that you get to that point, because that's the ideal place to be. And also, if after this interview anybody gets the idea to make an Airbnb style app for junkyards and music videos, we need a cut of that. So, absolutely don't cut us the fuck out of that. Thank you very much, TK, for being
Thanks for having me.
Great guest, great conversationalist, also great EP. We all appreciate you, and it's been wonderful having you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, have a good night, and let us know when more music's coming out. Just keep us up to date.
Oh, there's some coming out this year. Trust.
Oh, more. Okay,
there's more coming. Trust. There's so much more coming.
Okay, cool, awesome. Different song, different video, different junkyard. We're going there.
Yeah, yeah. All right, thank you.
Bye. I'll talk to you later.